Hello, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution, and we are reading the New Revelations, A Conversation with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And I'm going to have Linda make a comment here about a sentence we wanted to talk about in last week's reading.
Okay, so it was a sentence where Neale says, what hurts you so much that you have to hurt me to heal it or to feel better? And as I look around the world and I look at these news stories that we see and I look at these different exchanges that go on between people, I'm just seeing that acted out over and over and over again. And it's tied directly, I believe, to our wiring, our innate wiring in our body. If something comes at us, we lash out at it. And that ties back to the sentence that nobody attacks anybody. They're always defending themselves, even when they're attacking. They're kind of tied together. So our wiring, if somebody comes at us, our natural wiring is to fight back, and we're defending ourselves. That happens at an emotional level too. So when we're in pain, the way that we deal with our pain is to lash out at others and create pain in others. And it's absolutely an unconscious process. So I read this story that got shared on Facebook about a woman who had 6 children, and the husband was not a very good provider. And so when he would come home every day, she would nag him because she had these 6 kids and she couldn't take care of them, and she didn't have the provisions to feed them properly and all of that. And so what she would do is she would basically attack him. She was in pain, right? She nags at him and then creates pain for him. His pain then turns around, and it was like Christmas, I think. And he jumps up and he goes, "Okay, well, I'm going to give you all your present early." And he goes out to the car and he comes back in with a puppy. And I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but basically the puppy doesn't survive this encounter. And the man who's telling the story, the man who was a child at the time, is telling the story, and he doesn't even want to be alive. He's in so much pain over his childhood and the experiences that his father did, that he's in pain and he would like to just commit suicide. And that's how he's telling the story. And it's this chain of pain that's directly related to that sentence of Neale's. Nobody ever, that what hurts you so much that you have to hurt me to feel better. So when that dad came in with that puppy and then did what he did to that puppy in front of all those people to hurt them, he was attempting to make himself feel better. He was trying to put out the pain that the wife had given him by nagging at him and making him feel completely depleted. And so he goes and he does something that then completely depletes the other people. Truth be told, he probably, although maybe in the moment felt better or felt some kind of relief, in the end, probably not. He's probably very unhappy still. But watching that mechanism, being able to identify that mechanism and see when people are in that place is the first step, I think, to being able to break that pattern and break our response to it. I'm complete. Thank you. It's been a very powerful week, though, watching, especially with what's in the news, using that sentence and thinking about it. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say that I actually had the opportunity to use that sentence with somebody who's very near and dear to me about, what makes you feel like by hurting me, you can heal yourself, whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked beautifully. So that was a good thing for me. Over. Anybody else?
Shall we start?
I had one sentence I would like to say that hit my heart. You are the light of the world. Do you not know this? Everyone is when they choose to be. I think that is important.
Mm-hmm.
The last chapter.
I also think there's the opposite of that. For some, there was, I'll show you, I'll hurt me. Instead of striking out, you turn on yourself. I think that's also another unconscious behavior that I've noticed, I've seen, and I've felt myself in response to getting the attention I needed or something like that as a child.
That's a good point.
So it's like we either strike out or we strike in, but we still strike. So the point being is, why does hurt have to produce more hurt? But it does. Over.
In response to what Anne has just said, and what Linda has, the story she's recounted, I had a very, very humiliating experience several years ago, which was exactly what this sentence is about, what hurts you so bad that you have to hurt me. But the response of the person was completely East Indian. And I'll just tell it to you as quickly as I can. I was having a fit of rage about various things. And I decided to use one particular incident to get really ugly. I went to pick up my eyeglasses at the store, and I let loose. And there were 3 women who worked there. 2 of them were just staring at me because they weren't East Indian. But the one who was East Indian came running in and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she gave me this and she gave me that. She made me feel like I was absolutely right. And what she gave me was these wipes, which are in little packets to wipe your glasses, and this and that. Like, it was all free stuff. It was just, giveaway stuff. But essentially, she could see that my heart had a big slash through it, and she was getting the Band-Aids. But what impressed me was the intention, the sincerity, the love, the desire to tell me that I was understood, that I was valued. Like, I didn't even care. I was so pissed. But to have someone respond that way and not say something stupid like, "What hurts you so bad that you have to hurt me to heal it?" Like, I would have wrung their necks if anyone had said that to me. But to give me all these freebies, like I just melted into shame after I recovered, you know, that here's someone beating me at my own game. Like nobody lost anything, but I became ashamed and richer for it. So I will never, ever tell anyone, you know, what hurts you so bad that you have to hurt me to heal it. I mean, all I can see is that there's a puddle of blood for someone to be acting out that way. And even a Band-Aid is a gift. So that's my story. And I'm sticking to it.
Thank you.
I like to add one more comment to this, which is somehow we've learned when we're hurt, we withdraw, we pull away. Matt Kahn has a statement when somebody's hurting or something like that, and he says, what they need is more love, not less. And that stuck with me when you see that someone's really hurting, because it's kind of the way that woman reacted to you was that instead of withdrawing and making you wrong for the way you are, what she did was she offered you more love, not less, because of the way you were being. And that's all over.
Absolutely, Anne. And the thing is that unless I look at myself and own what I've done and take responsibility for it, I mean, I was projecting big time. I could write a book about what I was upset about, but so could everyone else. Like we could all write an encyclopedia about what we've got to bitch about. Now, what I find, which is far more useful than this sentence, because very, very few people are able to respond the way Nanette's friend did. Now, what's worked for me ever since that incident is that I become happy, think of something good, and then physically haul that person inside my heart and hold them there and soak them in love the way I soak my laundry in detergent when it's got stains in it. Is just soaking someone in love when I am full of love does the job without words and without running around with Band-Aids for a pool of someone's blood. For me, that's worked since I got caught by that woman at the optician store.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think we all have different Band-Aids, tricks in our bags, whatever you want to call it, for different circumstances. Because sometimes, like with the person I was speaking about, I've tried so many different things and nothing was getting a response. I mean, just nothing. And and I feel like when I text messaged that sentence to this person about what hurts you so much, and honest to God, the reaction was better than I could have ever hoped for. So anyway, I'm just saying, some things work sometimes and sometimes they don't. So I think we can all learn from each other. Over.
Well, Nanette, that's impressive because a text message is something that stares at you and you have to take it seriously. But what you said before about trying everything you knew how to do and finding no success with it, I think means, to me anyway, this is my interpretation, tell me if I'm right, is that you were basically focusing your energy, like you were rallying your resources in every imaginable way. And that text message was Mount Everest. You finally reached the peak.
That's exactly how it was. And I think, because I'm not really into text messaging, but I think sometimes when you get a text message, you have the opportunity to read it and reread it and reread it. And for some reason, it just struck a chord. And I'm very grateful. And had we not read this chapter last week, it would have never crossed my mind. And had we not discussed it. I also think there is something very much to be said for the woman that, you know, showered you with gifts and more love, not less love. So I think, you know, it's like a buffet. We can pick and choose what we take. And, you know, sometimes these things aren't going to work, you know, and sometimes they will. So I felt blessed and it worked for me this week. Over.
That's a powerful message, Nanette. I'm very grateful that you shared it. And I just want to tell you about someone called Joy, who used to do stuff. I'm trying to be neutral, and soaking her in my heart for several months just made me feel better, didn't change Joy's behavior. But one day she was doing her thing, and I said to her, "Yep, you're spreading the joy." And she stares at me. And
That's too funny.
and she just, you know, like, so I'm telling you that sometimes when you think you're absolutely useless and the laundry's not working, you know,
Yeah.
like, see my heart as the washing machine. And that T-shirt came back as stained as ever, except when I mean, I didn't have the grace to react that way, but I did thank the East Indian lady later, you know. But sometimes, despite herself, she was demonstrating to me that I wasn't that stupid.
Well, thank you. Does anybody else want to share before we start reading? Okay, Linda, what page are we on?
This is page 179, chapter 17.
Okay. All right.
This is Neil speaking. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So this is Neil speaking. You said something fascinating earlier. You said, nobody does anything inappropriate given their model of the world. I can see how this applies. It is what made it possible for music of any other kind other than Islamic religious songs to be outlawed by the Taliban in Afghanistan. Exactly. That was their model of the world. To them, this seemed perfectly reasonable. So if we find a person's behavior or the behavior of a whole group of people unacceptable to us, what we would have to do to produce lasting change is to affect the model of the world that is creating their behavior. You understand now. You understand the central part of this dialogue. That is what I am saying here. You can seek to alter behavior, but that will produce only short-term change at best. Yet if you alter belief, you will impact behavior at its source. That is why I have said that what would be beneficial for human beings right now, if they wish to live together in peace and harmony, is a new spirituality, a new model of the world based on expanded and changed beliefs. How do we create that? I know you said before that in order for others to feel safe with these new beliefs, we have to demonstrate that they work using our own lives as the model. But how do we come up with new beliefs to begin with? You will not come up with any new beliefs unless and until you decide that some of your old beliefs are not working. Beliefs are difficult things for human beings to let go of. Once you believe a thing, you believe it until it's proven wrong. Even then, many of you continue to believe it, refusing to let go of old ideas long after they have been proven inaccurate, ineffective, or unworkable. But at least here in this dialogue, you're willing to look at it, and that's the first step to change. You can't change anything that you're not even willing to look at. So first, you have to decide which of your old beliefs are not working. In this conversation, we've explored the 5 fallacies about God. These are beliefs that no longer work for the human community. There can be no serious argument about that. The fact that they do not work is observable and demonstratable. The continuing condition of conflict on your planet is the demonstration. If your present beliefs about God were accurate, conflict would have been eliminated on your planet long ago. Instead, your beliefs about God actually create conflict. I've pointed this out now repeatedly. The intention is that you will not be able to miss this point or ignore it. You said earlier there were 10 fallacies that humans believe, 10 in all. Yes, in addition to the 5 fallacies about God, there are also 5 fallacies about life that make your experience on Earth very, very difficult. Are these fallacies about life as important? Do they produce just as much impact as the 5 fallacies about God? Every bit as much. They also create crisis, violence, killing, and war. Well, then let's go over them now. We haven't discussed these yet. The 5 fallacies about life are: 1, that human beings are separate from each other. 2, there is not enough of what human beings need to be happy. 3, to get the stuff of which there is not enough, human beings must compete with each other. 4, some human beings are better than other human beings. And 5, it is appropriate for human beings to resolve severe differences created by all other fallacies by killing each other. Okay, let's go back to the top of the list and take a look at these. Good. The first fallacy about life is that human beings are separate from each other. This idea emerges from the third fallacy about God, and so we see how the fallacies about God have a spillover effect. Your species' fallacies about God are very powerful. They impact every area of your collective experience, even for those who do not believe in God. Because they are connected so deeply with the root cause of all experience, as you now understand it, your ideas about God affect and actually create your beliefs about life, producing fallacies in the secular arena as well. You believe that God has separated you from him because you have not given God what she needs. In this idea, in turn, stems from your beliefs that there is something in particular that God does need, and that God can actually fail to have his needs met. Both of these ideas are most ridiculous on the surface, but the absurdity of ideas has never stopped human beings from embracing them. Okay, as you've pointed out, God is, by our own definition, the Almighty, the All-Powerful, and the Most High. You would think that we would get that God needs and requires nothing to be happy. The idea that we must somehow placate God in order to have his blessings and not his curses showered upon us, and to guarantee a place for us in heaven, nevertheless persists. And what humans have done to placate God is inhuman. You have persecuted others, causing them incredible suffering. And if you've killed people by the millions in order to please this God of yours. In the earliest days of pagan worship, humans even sacrificed babies, tiny infants, the embodiment of utter innocence, placing them on pyres and burning them alive in hopes of causing the gods to smile. This need to make God happy emerged from your errant thought that God is somehow not happy. This is a crazy idea because God is happiness itself. Yet you have clung to your idea of brooding, a brooding, displeased deity. Your idea that God is not happy and that humans are the cause is what has created the insane basis for insane religions to inspire people to act insanely. I never heard it put so directly. It is time that you did. This really is a silly idea, isn't it? It's more than silly. It's deadly. It is also the epitome of arrogance for you to imagine that somehow something that human beings have done could make the creator of the universe give up peace and love, which is the essence of who and what the creator is. In other words, you imagine that I am willing to give up myself in reaction to something that you have done. The reason you imagine that I do this is because you do this. And we do not even see the connection. No, you do not. We say that we are made in the image and likeness of God, yet you are correct in what you suggested before. What we have done is create God in the image and likeness of humans. And so you have imagined a God that separates from humans from him because he was not happy with humans. This is what humans do to each other when they are not happy. And you have concluded that God would do the same. This idea of the great separation created in you the experience of being separate from each other as well. I have already explained this to you how this happened. Human beings knew, they had intuitively understood, they had a cellular memory of the fact that they were one with all of life, one with the earth, and one with the creatures of the earth, one with the sky, and one with everything in the sky, one with the divine, and part of that which is divine. Then the stories of separation began. As I explained earlier, these stories arose out of human beings' early experience. Religions codified that experience, transforming myth into dogma. The illusion of your separation was complete. Separation from God and separation from all life. Modern religion has had a chance to break that illusion, to lead you to the truth. But modern religion has chosen to stick with the teachings of pre-modern times, to retain the dogma of hundreds and thousands of years ago. And so, modern religion has failed modern man. If you are courageous, if you are very brave, you will allow a new spirituality to enhance your religious experience. This spirituality will not reject outright your traditional religious teachings, but enlarge upon them and alter some of the teachings that you agree no longer apply or no longer function. You have made that statement repeatedly now. You keep saying that over and over again. I want it to be something that you will carry from this book firmly in your awareness, for it is, in fact, your only hope for a truly different tomorrow. A tomorrow filled not with fear, struggle, rancor, conflict, outright war, and violent death, but with peace, joy, and love. What I am doing here is capturing all that I have been telling you over these several years and bringing it all together in one place, saying it over and over again, restating and reiterating comments and observations that I have made earlier here and elsewhere before, and adding new and very important information having to do with the crisis at hand. And the human race is facing a major crisis. Make no mistake about this. It is a crisis of conflict between ideologies. It is a crisis of belief. As I have said, you have equated your disconnection from God, which itself is a false belief, with a disconnection from life. It is quite natural for you to have done so, since at some very deep level you knew and understood that God is all of life. While you may not have articulated it that way, you knew at a cellular level that this was true. Everything and everyone in life, therefore, was experienced as separate from you in the moment that you accepted that you were separate from God. Conversely, everything and everyone in life is experienced as being one with you in the moment you accept that you are one with God. This is something that all masters teach and that all mystics have reported. You have accepted that you are separate from God, not because you have experienced that you are separate, but because you have been told that you are by organized religion. One's religion is a product of one's birthplace and early teaching. It is a product not of eternal truth, but of cultural environment. People believe what they have been taught to believe. They do not question it because they do not wish to question its source. I invite you to make this inquiry. Who would you be making wrong if you change some of your most basic beliefs? Therein lies the tale. So as long as you believe that there is such a thing as right and wrong, you will be willing to risk everything to be right. You will not change your beliefs if you think that doing so will make you or someone you love wrong. Yet as soon as you change the right-wrong axis to a what works, what doesn't work paradigm, the difficulty of critically analyzing, to say nothing of changing, basic beliefs is eased. Today, the world lives in a right-wrong paradigm and thus supports the third fallacy about God and the first fallacy about life. That illusion, the illusion that disunity exists. Should you dare to say that you have experienced just the opposite, that you have known the joyful bliss of complete union with others and with the divine, you will likely be told to be wary of such experiences, and certainly to be wary of talking about them. I have experienced that. I'm sure you have. And it is this fallacy of separation that allows us to do to each other things that we would never do to ourselves. Yes. It also creates the illusion that there is not enough of what you need to be happy. The second fallacy about life. Yes. And if you thought that there was only one of you, that is, if you thought of yourselves as one body, which is what you are, or one community, you would know that you always had enough because you would create the experience of it. Such a belief, you would share and share alike. You would ensure each other's well-being. But this is the highest tradition of the Islamic faith, which sees all Muslims as members of one community. Islamic teachings call upon Muslims to give to the poor and always support the community. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, Mormons, also have formed a worldwide community supported by one of the largest internal systems of organized non-governmental assistance to the poor and the needy among its members of any religious organization in the world. Organizations of Catholic charities and groups appealing to other Christian sects, as well as similar Jewish charities, likewise seek to share the world's abundance with the less fortunate and those in need. These are all worthy expressions of a beginning understanding. The difficulty is that many religious organizations form a closed circle around their own members, thereby demonstrating the limitations of their understanding. States and nations do the same, as do cultural, ethnic, racial, and social groups of every kind, each consciously or unconsciously creating a cordon sanitaire. Such quarantine living does nothing to promote an experience of humanity's oneness, and indeed produces a sense of the need of a protective shield, segregating people according to their most narrow views. With such a narrow outlook, not everything can be seen as it really is, because perspective is limited. So then it's awareness. What you experience as the safety of your womb becomes the birthplace of your righteousness. Hang on, I need to cough. Try that again. What you experience as the safety of your womb becomes the birthplace of your righteousness. Yet raising your consciousness will lift you out of your womb-like segregation. Then you will discover that the quarantine was unnecessary, that the cordon separated you from nothing but yourself. This will be the biggest surprise. This will be the largest astonishment. You have merely been segregating yourself from yourself. When you break through the circle of your containment, you will discover that everyone else is just like you. Not only everyone else, but everything else. Close examination will reveal that you and the rocks and the trees and the planets and the sun and the moon are all made of the same stuff. Like beautiful snowflakes, you all look different, but you all have identical substance. When you discover your oneness, you will marvel at how you could have ever imagined yourself to be separate from anyone or anything else. You will see that when you have treated anyone or anything as though it was not you, you hurt no one but yourself. How will this happen? How will we become so separated? How did we become so separated from ourselves? It occurred when you decided that you were not perfect. Somewhere along the way in your passing on of myths and stories, you landed on the idea that you were less than the world and the life around you. As I have explained before, you saw the effect that the winds and the rains and the storms and life itself had on you, and you determined that the gods were more powerful than you. You could never be this powerful, no matter how hard you tried. Thus, you imagined your own imperfection. You were less than the gods. In your frustration and in your anger, you turned against yourself, judging yourself and condemning yourself for not being enough. The first human experience of insufficiency was not in your exterior world, where there was clearly plenty, but within yourself, which measured up as very puny compared to the outward bounty and magnificence of the world around you. One look at the night sky was enough to convince you of the awesomeness of that which you thought of as not you, and the puniness of that which you thought of as you. It is from this idea of your puniness that you have never recovered. Yet now can be the time of your healing. This can be the moment of your remembering. For I come to tell you a great secret. You and the stars are one. Not figuratively as in a poem or a song, but literally. Your chemical makeup is the same. You will find the same trace elements within you that you will find in all celestial bodies, and indeed in everything else that is. Does this surprise you? Are you amazed to learn that nothing is composed of anything except differing combinations and concentrations of the only substance there is? It should not. I have been telling you this for a long time. Yes, you have, but I think most humans thought that this was meant figuratively, not literally. It is a literal truth, my child. You are all one. In the beginning stages of its development, your species could not comprehend this. Now, in the earliest years of its adolescence, it can. Our species is in its adolescence? In the earliest years of its adolescence. Yet it may never reach maturity the way things are going. You are quarreling with each other like children unwilling to share your toys. End of chapter.
Thank you. One thing I want to say before I lose this thought. Oh dear. Did I lose this thought?
Lost it already?
Yeah, I know. Okay, it's on page 189. And the paragraph goes, when you discover your oneness, you will marvel at how you could ever have imagined yourself to be separate from anyone or anything else. You will see that when you have treated anyone or anything as though it was not you, you hurt no one but yourself. And that's kind of a variation of the what makes you think by hurting me, it's going to make you feel better, but it's directed more at the individual rather than as a blanket statement. Over.
It makes me think of all those times that out of frustration. You know, we slam a door or we throw something in, and 9 times out of 10, it somehow comes back at us. You know, like slam the door, but you end up with your finger in it. Or, you know, I don't know, all those different examples of those kinds of frustrations where, you know, you throw a book, you slam it down, but then knock something over and it breaks your favorite trinket, you know, and it's just what it makes me think of.
Agreed. Someone else?
When he talks about only one substance and being the same as the stars, first of all, it reminds me of Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he says that, you know, that we're made of stardust. But the other thing to remember is that if you take anything, and I've said this before multiple times, you take any substance, it doesn't matter what it is, and you put it under the strongest microscope that we have, everything looks the same. So that's the scientific proof of the words that we just read. This isn't theory. This isn't fluff. This is fact. It's an absolute fact that everything is made up of the same stuff.
Agreed. And I just want to add to that 25 years ago, when I was pregnant with my youngest son, I remember reading an article, couldn't tell you where. It could have even been a video that I rented, who knows. But it talked about how a mother's amniotic fluid is the same chemical content as the sea. And I have never forgotten reading that. And I just thought it was so beautiful. Over.
I was thinking about the star analogy and how in tangible terms, what Neil said is exactly like the amniotic fluid, which is chemically the same as the sea. Well, that's fine, but when I go out to the grocery store and see the celebrities, I mean, those are stars being lampooned or whatever, like the magazines at the checkout that sell so well all over the world. I'm thinking every one of us is made of the same material as those stars. I mean, their multiple divorces and other emotional traumas are no different from our own. We just like to read about them instead of looking within. So we're one in many, many ways, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual, that the oneness extends across the board. Over.
Interesting. The way you put the tabloids, and I think that's what you're talking about. At the grocery store, I can barely get past the front page looking at it going, what? The Japanese are going to try to sell the moon? Okay. So I have some real troubles with just the headlines. They're supposed to be catchy. And I'm older now, but you know what? I never liked those magazines. I just always thought they were hooey. And I didn't. So, but I like the way you put it, Shavana, that it prevents us from looking at ourselves from within. and because we'd rather read about other people who seemingly have it all. And as you pointed out, they go through divorces, they have untimely deaths, they've got issues. And anyway, it's an interesting point you brought up. Over.
I'm just glad that none of us in this group have any of that.
Well, I am famous, but I haven't told you guys. And I'm kidding.
Well, we're all famous too, but we never told you that.
So this is a group of all famous people that just keep their mouths shut. Oh, too funny. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can share something that came up to me. I'm smiling at your joking. It's wonderful. We are one, so we can have the same joy. But anyway, when I had so many experiences as a child of being one, I thought, as I told before, I thought everyone was like that. I couldn't understand it. And I didn't know what it was about. But I wrote a poem when I was a little older that was a song. It's a music to it, but the poem is, when I was a little girl, I was looking at the stars. I felt closeness more to them than all the friends I had. And it goes on. I asked my father, what is beyond that? What is it really? And he said, the human mind thinking cannot understand it. So I stopped asking. And then later it came back. When I had this feeling, I felt so one with everything, the animals, the trees, the forest, whatever. I was going around there. I thought, this is life. And then when I was grown up and was studying at the university, philosophy, there was something about, I don't remember if it was philosophy and comparative religion. Anyways, it was something about religious psychology or something like that, where they described the state of a mystic. And I was like, wow, I'm a mystic. That is my identification. And I was born again in a way, wow. So, and he's writing about that. So today I call myself, I say myself, I'm a native mystic. I mean, we can be born, we are born, maybe everyone are, of course we are, but I realized it. I have never denied it really. I have nurtured it in different ways, even if I was looked upon as being crazy, but today I just am happy that I never denied it. And this book is a very deep confirmation of I remember another thing I wrote, together we are more than one. Together we are one with big. So it's wonderful. Thank you for this wonderful reading and sharings.
No, thank you for.
I feel at home with you.
Well, I'm glad. I think this group feels at one with each other, because we kind of dare to go naked in front of each other. And it's like, okay, I might be sticking my foot in my mouth, but I'm going to say this anyway. But I think that that's one of the beautiful things about this group, is that, it's like Shabana and I earlier didn't have the same thought on that quote, but we weren't afraid to voice our opinion on it. And I didn't think anything less of her, and I'm sure you better not think anything less of me. So I think that's one of the great things about this group. So having said that, it's probably time for Shabana to do the closing meditation, and then we'll take it from there.
Lord God, you know that we're naked, we're stars, and we're famous, and we love you, and we thank you for expanding our belief so that we become, as Bhima said, the real, true mystics that we really are. Jog our memory and enlarge our understanding so that our love encompasses not just each other, not just this world, but all the universes. Amen. All right.
Thank you, Shabana. And
Thank you.
I want
Thank
to,
you, Shabana.
Thank you.
and I was just going to add something that flashed through my brain while we were meditating. Linda, you had said something about we are the stars. This is not fluff. This is scientifically proven. And I don't know why, but this thought came screeching through my brain. And I think it was Carl Sagan. Does anybody know off the top of their head? He's not alive anymore, is he?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it was Carl Sagan, but I thought it was. Like when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, you know how they bring in the projectors and put the tapes on the wheels for film in school? And they bring one in, and I think it was Carl Sagan who shows this beautiful red-headed woman, just the back of her head, and this beautiful red hair. And they take a picture of it, and then he goes up into the universe and the stars and says, this hair came from here, from the universe. And I just thought of that, so thought I'd share it. Anyway, thank you, Linda, for reading.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda.
And thank everybody for participating. And
Are we all on for next week? Because it's a holiday weekend, but
what is
I
it?
can read. It's
It's
Memorial
Memorial?
Day, isn't it?
Well, it could be. It could be.
Memorial.
You can tell we all do a lot of celebrating. You could tell me it's Christmas, and I'd probably believe you.
It's
So-
Christmas. It's Christmas, Linda.
Jingle bells. So-
It's Mother's Day in Sweden next week, the Sunday.
Well, so do you want to gather or not?
I think so.
I'm free.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think my sons will come and visit me.
Okay. Well, then let's plan for it. And if nobody shows up but Linda and me, we'll probably cancel.
I'll
So-
come.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Love you guys.
Love
Bye,
you
you
too.
guys. All right.
Bye-bye.
Next
Bye.
week.